Hey everybody, my name is Peter Biles, and you probably don't subscribe to me on YouTube, which is fine because I don't really post here. But I just came out with a new book. It's called "Through the Eye of Old Man Kyle." Um, you should be able to see that on the screen. But this book came out about a week ago, and it's my third published book, my second novel. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about it and to read a little bit from it. And I'll put the link to Amazon to purchase it in the notes below. But yeah, this is now available. It's really exciting to hold it here for the first time, and I'm excited to be able to share it with you now. So yeah, a little bit about the book. So it's not super long. It's about 50,000 words, just on the shorter end of the novel length. But it is narrated by a kid named, well, he's a 22-year-old young man named Hunter Saint, who's just graduated college, and he is working at a remote summer camp in southeastern Oklahoma called Camp Woodward. And he's worked at this camp for 4 years in a row. And so he is back at camp at the beginning of the summer, is about to start things up, but he has to make up a creative writing assignment from his first college before he's able to graduate fully. So he sets out on a task to write a daily journal, documenting his last summer at Camp Woodward. So that's kind of the frame for the novel. It's written by listing the dates. So you can see that's June 6th. So the book takes place over the course of a single summer from about May 24th through, what is the last day? August 7th. So yeah, that's kind of the frame of the story. The main plot, I guess you could say, is Hunter is kind of expecting an ordinary summer, nothing out of the ordinary or nothing crazy. But this new kid comes to work at Camp Woodward. His name is Jordan, and he is clearly a bit troubled. He's a bit antisocial. He doesn't talk to anybody. He refuses to give up his phone. He's just kind of a mysterious dude. The camp director tells Hunter that this kid's principal called and and asked her to take him in, but no one's really quite sure who he is, where he comes from. He just kind of shows up at camp, but Hunter begins to feel like it's his duty to kind of take this kid under his wing, but he finds that more difficult than he originally expects. He just he's not really, he thinks he is the kind of person who will come up to sort of the outcast in the group, but he finds that more challenging than he originally expected. And because he realizes he's never really had to do that before. So I won't really give up too much more than that. Jordan ends up running away from the camp, and the crux of the story is whether or not he'll turn up again. So yeah, I'm going to read the intro and then the first chapter, I guess you could call it, and then that'll be it. Okay, just Through the Eye of Old Man Kyle. September 1st, 2017, 11:19 a.m. Dear Professor Snodgrass, this is written as an email after the summer is over. Again, thank you for agreeing to take my creative writing project at the end of the summer after my several lame attempts to generate something this spring. You were asking for a documentary view of a memorable experience I've had, and while maybe it was a bit presumptuous to figure that the most memorable experience was yet to come, I'm glad you gave me the 3 months of wiggle room, because it turns out I was right. You said at the beginning of the spring semester that telling a good story was about getting into someone else's shoes, trying out the world from their point of view, and seeing how it fares with your own. We read To Kill a Mockingbird to get that through in our heads. You additionally said that it was your hope for the class that we learn that kind of imaginative skill set by the end of the semester. I'd like to say that I learned to imagine life from the eyes of another human being and could tell you that the best stories help us do just that. But maybe there was further purpose in delaying my final project, because I can safely say that before this summer, I've never really been challenged to walk a mile in another dude's boots. Maybe I thought it was supposed to be easy, this shift in viewpoint, or that getting inside another person's head wouldn't change how I saw things. As you'll see in the following pages within my summer documentary of Camp Woodward, where I've worked every summer for the past 4 summers, I had a chance to get clubbed over the head with the fact that I'm an imagination novice. that while I learned a lot at Winston's College and am proud of my bachelor's in the biological sciences, I still got a long way to go in the journey. About half of this account was written as the events unfolded in a journal, and then I went back and combed it over after the summer to add all the stuff I didn't have time to write in the moment, or rather, all the stuff that only really accumulated after I had a chance to mull it over a couple of weeks. Maybe that's sort of like life, half direct experience and half reflection on direct experience. Or maybe the ratio is skewed way in favor of the latter. I don't know. Really, what follows, Professor, is all about me trying to get back in touch with this odd experience I had at the very beginning of my last summer at Camp Woodward. There's much more to it, but at the end of the day, I wanted to feel like there's really a watchman behind the stars, like there's a whole other world to be seen through the eye of Old Man Kyle, our local camp legend. Maybe by the time you reach the end, you'll sort of get what I mean. All the best, Hunter Saint. May 24th. Here goes, Prof. Once upon a time, there was a camp of 10 buildings atop a hill overlooking a lake in the outback woods of southeastern Oklahoma. I worked at that camp for 4 summers in a row, counting this one. Call it an emporium of hard work. Call it a play place for church kids who don't have good home lives. I call it home and high water, and here's why. It feels weird, but refreshingly familiar being back, like taking a deep breath after you've been holding it for a couple of minutes. I honestly don't even know if I fully processed graduation. They flew us through commencement, as you know. You and I barely got to shake hands. We walked across the stage in tassels and robes and honors. Did I botch the handshake with President Clerk? There's no way to remember. The last 2 weeks have been a blur of moving cabinets and unruly laundry, of congratulatory cards from relatives I never see, and the feeling of another commencement into something new, whatever that newness entails. You know, all that cliche talk you told us to avoid, Prof. My sister, the lovely Carrie St. Morgan, got married, and I was in the wedding. That was the Saturday after graduation. She and Jared are happy so far as I can tell and are spending the next couple weeks in Costa Rica. But now here I am at Camp Woodward, established in 1987, hereby in its 31st year of operations, working here for the 4th year in a row. It's the home away from home where I can safely say that that other world of final exams, lack of sleep, cars, emails, and romantic confusion is pretty much removed. Well, maybe not the romantic confusion. Sometimes that element intensifies here by about 1,000 degrees, but we'll get into that later. Here it's quiet. Not quiet as in lack of noise per se, since there are plenty of cicadas, locusts, and bird calls to madden the air, but quiet in terms of spiritual respite. That's how I see it anyway. Camp Woodward is not mechanical. No engines or ringing phones or hissing espresso machines or rumbling generators. Some staffers say it's a bubble, totally disconnected from the quote-unquote real world, as if this place requires a suspension of belief to enjoy. That never seemed quite right, though. After every summer, I'd go back to college in the fall, quickly get thrown back into the melee of duties and lab assignments and the occasional little wonderment of why I'm doing any of this, and then in May find myself back on this dock and dipping my toes in the healing waters of Lake Woodward. By all accounts, this is the real world. The Shawnee Hills roll in the distance like green putty. Tart blue skies, sprayed with stratus clouds, mark the beginning of a hot summer. The hills and the skies and the trees and the resident beasts of the surrounding forestry are still here, like they're supposed to, and invite the human invaders to partake in the contentment. I'm sitting on the dock with my feet in the water, thighs against the edge so it feels like I could fall in at any moment. A huge catfish bellied in the mud when I first got down here. He was stirring up muck, only to flit off when my shadow crossed him. Now there's just perch bickering in the reeds and a water moccasin coiled in the grass underneath the water jug. I don't really know why I decided to buy a hardcover journal. I'll have to transcribe all of this in a computer document at the end of the summer anyway, I guess. My deadline is September 1st, or I don't officially pass college, which would be awkward since my diploma is sitting on my dresser at home. It's not even a journal, more like a sketchbook. I'm writing tiny. I feel like a monk hunched over some ancient manuscript, translating Latin into Old English or whatever. I've never kept a journal in the introspective sense or tried to document a section of life like this. But now that college is over and I have to actually start thinking about what to do with the rest of my life, it's as good a time as any to try and figure out some things on the page. I've heard writing down your thoughts is good for you anyway. helps you construct your life into a story, helps you make at least some minimal sense of things and abide by the insights. Professor Snodgrass, you'd agree, no? Or is it the other way around? Is writing about trying to figure out the story that's already been presented to you? Huh. In any case, I'm already thinking about things that I otherwise would have. Maybe because I always knew, up until this summer at least, that the gentle shores of Camp Woodward would always be waiting to host me for a chunky 3 months of respite, so I didn't feel the need to jot things down to remember any of it. I felt like my time at Camp Woodward was never going to end. Tonight, we've got orientation and all that formality. It's always a giddy, nervous time for the newcomers, and an old hat for veterans like me to don with well earned authority. Zach and I will sit in the back next to Gabe, the old maintenance guy, and his young protege, Jerry. But orientation is when Jenny really comes out full flare. She intimidated me during my first summer here, to be honest. She's the sharp-eyed 30-year-old gal in a blue blazer, chewing gum under a ball cap, ponytail bouncing all over the place. I remember she perched up on stage with her clipboard, and she asked me if I had a highlighter. I mean, who has a highlighter on them at random? Funny thing, though, I did have one. It was in the pin pocket on my backpack, and after I handed it to her, she made some lines with it and then set it next to her leg on the stage in the cafeteria. I considered it a real act of courage just asking for it back. Jenny has worked at Camp Woodward in some form or another for 14 years, ever since she was in high school. She grew up in Adler, which is where I'm from too. Started coming out to camp in the summers with her father. Her dad used to preach to some of the old churches that came through. When Jenny was 16, she signed on for a 2-week internship, wowing the administration with her quick judgment, no nonsense obedience, and voracious appetite for fun, and was offered a seat on the council not long after she graduated high school a year later. She's never looked back, and she's never gotten married. Now Jenny treats me like a cousin, or a nephew, sometimes like an old son. When I go up to college, we always keep up a texting thread, and she'll FaceTime me when she's walking back from the camp ops to her own house, which is just behind the rec field and overlooking the rest of the property like a resident temple. All said and done, she's the best boss I've ever had, and one of the best friends, too. Here comes Lori, in the present tense. She's coming down the hill towards the dock, arms swinging, looking down at me through her sunglasses. She's probably wondering, what the heck is Hunter Saint doing on the dock, scribbling in a journal? Maybe she'll think it's romantic and poetic. This is me making up for the fact that I was a biology major. Actually, it's just me making up for an assignment. We'll see. So there you have it. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I additionally hope that you will buy your own copy if you liked what you heard. And again, I'll put that link in the comment section. This is my first video ever done, but yeah, I hope to be maybe more active on here somehow. Promoting work, talking about literature, writing, that sort of thing. We'll see. But thanks, guys. Appreciate it.